Meeting circular economy goals require innovation in the type of business models used, like moving from sales to leasing, technological innovation, like using new technologies, and social innovation, like the new ways of interacting and connecting businesses with people. Listen to this chat with Ms. Shriti Pandey, founder of Structure Eco, the first company in India to make homes and schools using biocomposite panels. Her initiative stops crop stubble burning, which is the leading cause of air pollution in the northern India and amounts to an estimated loss of $30 billion annually.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Susanna Lal, and on behalf of ICC, I would like to welcome you all to Circular Chat, a talk series that takes place every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Our talk show involves an insightful conversation with people belonging to various sectors and agencies committed to work for a circular economy. We invite people from industry, government, multilateral organizations, and nonprofits from a particular sector to understand all perspectives. International Council for Circular Economy was incorporated in July 2020 and formally launched in August 2020 to function as the first international body in India working on the principles of circular economy. ICC is a global platform for public and private sector companies, civil society organizations, academic institutions, and business associations. ICC operates in three strong pillars: educate, innovate, and inspire. Today, in another session of Circular Chat, we will have a discussion with Ms. Shriti Pandey, founder of Structure Eco, an organization envisioned to make housing more accessible and sustainable for all. Structure uses fiber panels made of agri residue like bagasse, rice husk, wheat straw to make walls, doors, furniture, and flooring solutions. Apart from working for individual and institutional clients in urban areas, her company also partners with foundations, NGOs, trusts, government bodies, and CSR initiatives to deliver quality rural and urban homes, childcare centers, primary healthcare centers, and schools. She aims to speak a paradigm change in how we create, interact, and sustain our built environment. Structure Eco is currently bootstrapped. It has won a few competitions like United Nations 22nd Youth Assembly Impact Challenge Award and the runner-up award in the Uttar Pradesh Startup Conclave that provided them with funding. It is incubated at Atal Incubation Center, Banasthali, Vidyapeeth, and IIM Bangalore. Women's Startup Program has provided them with mentorship. Shriti, it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thanks.
Uh,
Same
so,
here.
sh- so Shruti, your company's value is based upon embracing the sacred concept of circular economy by
Mm.
redefining the value chain and adopting an approach which is in harmony with nature. So, with
Mhm.
this in regard, what impact does your business models have on creating green jobs, increasing farmers' income, and simultaneously reducing carbon footprint?
Sure. Thanks for that question. So, a green job, the way I see it, is any job that kind of restores the environment, like the balance between the
Right.
nature and the way we consume. So, in that respect, every job in our company, starting from mine to the carpenter, everybody is actually part of the green job sector. So that way, it's 100% green company. Everybody who's employed is part of the green job, and also there's a lot of potential of creating indirect jobs in our space because there's someone who's working directly for manufacturing and at the site. But every time we go to a site, we hire more than 20 to 25 people temporarily to then execute, to install and build those homes. So every time you do that, you're slightly nudging them and upskilling them to be part of the green sector because now they know how to work with a material that is green. So next time they have an added skill set, and definitely because it's a new material to work with, it's being used by high-end architects and designers. There's also an opportunity for those people to earn more. So that's the thing with green jobs, that whether it's energy sector, build, manufacturing, usually it's been seen that if you transition from the traditional to the green, there's a potential to earn more. So that way, we're really excited to just create more and more opportunity for everyone to work with us and be part of that green economy. When it comes to farmer income, it's actually a tricky answer. So right now, we are not adding to the income. We are doing something that makes sure that that whatever they are making remains with them. So I'll just explain that. So for instance, if you are growing paddy or wheat, post harvest, now you have to clear your land. Now, right now, when there's no value to that stubble, you have to burn your land, which at that moment just seems like a free thing to do, to just light a matchstick and burn your land. But you see the consequences of that immediately in the next harvesting season, because you have to incur more input, such as fertilizers and nutrients, to grow another crop at the productivity level that you require. Because when you're burning stubble, you're reducing the micronutrient level of phosphorus and other elements like nitrogen. So you are losing on your profits as a farmer.
Right.
And other way, if let's say you are conscious and you do not want to burn the stubble and you want to clear your land off, in that case you have to spend at least 5,000 rupees per acre to clear the land right now, because no one else is paying for it, because no one else sees the value. So when we end up being part of that model and we enter and we communicate with them, what we tell them is that you clear off the land and we'll pay for clearing the land. So they're not making any extra income. They're only getting the amount of money that is right now the expense. But in the long run, as we scale and there is more multiplier effect in terms of the cost of the raw material to the value added product that we are selling, then we'll be in an opportunity to not only just pay them for the cost of clearing the land, but also more than that as a margin to, do more with that act that they are doing, which is not burning the stubble. So that's how we contribute to the farmer's income. And lastly, the carbon footprint, that's an easy math. So every time you're compressing a straw into panel, 1 square feet of a panel requires 4.5 kg of straw, which if burnt would have eliminated carbon dioxide, and that is roughly around 3 kg. So 4.5 kg of straw releases 3 kg of carbon dioxide. So we have an impact metric. So every time our material is sold to a customer, they can go on our website and check how much of the carbon dioxide have they stored by taking this conscious choice. And the other way of affecting carbon footprint for us is that, so that is on the raw material side. But now you have chosen this material, which means you're using this versus brick, or you're using this versus cement or wood. So what is the carbon dioxide additionally that you are not using by substituting a traditional material? So cumulatively, then it becomes a bigger number, because you're not using water, because you're not using cement. You're using an alternative material that requires 0% water. So that's how all of these three things, the green jobs, the income, and the carbon footprint, is calculated. And those are also the three impact metrics for us. So
Right.
every time we grow as a company in terms of revenue, these three numbers should also grow for us. So they're not a byproduct, they go together.
That's some great work you're doing,
Yeah.
Shriti. Shriti, as compared to the traditional construction, can you tell
Mhm.
us a little about your project in providing alternative housing that are low cost, sustainable,
Mm.
and take less than half the time to build? And
Right.
what does this project seek to deliver?
Sure. So if you look at rural or low cost housing, the problem is that it's an ecosystem problem. You cannot, as one element, like one entity, go and address it. You can go and say that you're providing a home that is built faster. Okay. But even then, at the cost that we are providing the homes right now, it is 20% cheaper than the traditional cost of construction. But the budget that a low income family genuinely has is still lesser. They would require the cost of construction to go another 20% down for them to pay out of their pocket in full. So the way we are addressing the problem of low cost housing or mass housing is we are creating an ecosystem. So we are bringing microfinance organizations with us who will, match that deficit of 20%. 20% is met because of the choice of the material that they're going for working with us. And then we are getting NGOs and foundations to work parallelly with the family, so that the banks or the microfinance that are funding them are more confident that, okay, there's an organized player who's going to take care of their credit rating, make sure that they pay on time. So when you bring everyone together, a funder, a local partner, a technology provider, and the community, that is when you're holistically addressing low cost housing. Otherwise, you're going to do one pilot and then it's going to fall flat. it's not going to scale up. So right now, in last 2 years, we have done similar pilots in Orissa, Bihar, UP, Gujarat, and right now we are doing one in Madhya Pradesh. And after all of these individual pilots, now we are creating a complete handbook, as we like to call it, which will then be offering to the local governments and to multiple microfinance institutions, MFIs, who can then, have a process in place that, okay, if we want to work with this partner, this is how this goes about, and the community doesn't have to be worried about, how do I go and talk to a bank, because
Right.
there's a lot of capacity building that needs to be built in place. So we are working with a foundation that will do that engagement with the bank for the community, do the credit ratings for them beforehand, and then give them a list of name of the families that require house. And then if let's say a family doesn't even have land, so that's when the government comes into picture. So that's more challenging to execute, but we are hoping that once this model gets replicated, then we can go to the government and say that even the people who do not have homes, sorry, do not have land, can be, we can use this model, and then what you are providing as value as a government is, a patch of land, and the rest of the things are already in place.
Right.
And when it comes to the technology element, so what we're doing is a very IKEA kind of approach. The idea is we go and build once, and then the local community in that village or that, off beaten place, if there's any carpenter or welder in that locality, they would be able to build that, the next house themselves. They do not need us. So when we send the material, we send an instruction manual which is color coded, because carpenters have different languages across the, the breadth and span of India. So so we don't rely on languages. We have this manual where they see the shape of the house. It's so different members are different color coded, they are numbered, and they know how to put everything together in a modular way. It's permanent, it's not temporary, it's fixed, but they can do it without any like language required. So once they do it, they can replicate and go forward doing it. The first time we do send a site supervisor at site to coordinate, tell them how to use the material, how to read the instruction manual. But the idea is that similar to the ecosystem, even this becomes outsourced, it's decentralized, and the community in that village itself could build the houses, because that then also brings the cost down for
Right.
them.
Shruti, I must say that the outreach of your company has gained a phenomenal speed, and your work now spreads across 6 states within the country,
Hmm.
like you just mentioned,
Right.
with finished and ongoing projects. So, what
Hmm.
changes have you witnessed during this time period in your
Hmm.
organization's culture that reflect a new way of working as a circularity
Hmm.
oriented business model?
Right. So I think this was the hardest thing to do, and I think we're still figuring it out. We haven't figured out the right way to do it, because when people join a company or an organization, you're joining for different value system. You're joining for growth. You're joining for better perks and salary. But in our case, all of those things are there. But besides that, we also want them to really understand, what we're just discussing, the value where this all starts. It's simple things, but I keep every time I go to a site, I always say that nothing is a waste. By which I mean that even our own building material that they're using, you're cutting a piece for a wall and there's a small piece out from a window and a door. I always go and pick it up and I'm like, we don't need to throw this. This can be used in the next site. So you have to keep inculcating that mindset that, it's not just the raw material, but everything that we do shouldn't create a waste. Everything that we are doing operationally should have a circular loop, which means thinking for 30 years later today. So I'll give you an example. So it's much easier to set up a big plant. Like, you go once, raise once, go through that whole crazy cycle of raising investment once and set up a big plant. Or you do it multiple times and set up small plants. But the value we see in setting up small plants is that if you're a customer sitting in Kolkata and I have a plant in East India, 30 years later, when you do not need that furniture made out of these panels, if you call us, there will be reverse logistics to take it back to the factory, break the bonds between the resin and the straw, and repurpose the material. But if there's only one factory, let's say sitting in Maharashtra, even if I tell you today as an advertisement that, we're going to take back your furniture, you're not going to call me and I'm not going to make that effort 30 years later, because there's no infrastructure for it in place.
Right.
So even though we do not have a customer in Kolkata right now, when you're thinking about the manufacturing, when you're thinking about the business model, you have to think 20 years down the line that it's not about just making a green material, but also thinking how does it end its life cycle. Because unless its whole life cycle is circular, it's not really a green material. Then it's half-hearted approach that you have there. So inculcating that in the operations, inculcating in the way we work at site with our whole team, the way we do packaging as well. So we don't just go and package things in plastic. We have made boxes out of our own material so that even that is green. So it's a lot of behavioral change that is required to then for you to believe every day when you come to work that you're working in an organization that has a slightly different approach, not just to growth, not just to how we scale up, but also just how we exist, in different ways. So that's the most challenging thing I think from an organizational point of view as a founder. But I'm guessing we're doing a fine job for now. But yes, when we scale up, we have more people. That is something we'll have to really put in, genuine efforts to continue doing so.
Right. Yeah, Shruti, of course. Shruti, talking about stubble burning and greenhouse
Hmm.
gases emission, what unique innovation and practices does your company adopt
Mhm.
towards those things?
Sure. So when we look at stubble burning, so the problem is, so there's in totality there is 500 million metric ton of straw in India that is produced every year, which is regenerative by nature, which means that whether I or you like it or not, it's going to be there at the end of the year because you need food to survive. People there's a population to feed, and if you're growing food, you will have a byproduct to that, which is in this case a fibrous straw. So that could be for wheat, rice, corn, maize, any kind of fibrous crop. Now, out of this 500 million metric ton, what is really considered stubble when we look at the news is the percentage of the waste that is sitting idle on the fields, which at this point of time is around 140 million metric ton. So around 30%. Now, out of that 30%, 25% is burned. So what we are addressing here is 25% of the straw that has no value. Even if you go and go as a farmer and collect your straw, no one will come and pick it because the rest of it has already been used for every possible alternate usage. And why I'm making this statement before I get to my answer is because we always ask that, oh, if you use a lot of straw, what about animals? So the question is, we are not eating the fodder that the animals need. We are taking the straw that is left post their requirement. So we are not competing. There's just too much of it available that is untapped. Now, when we come to this 25%, what we are trying to do is we are collecting is converting it into straw bales because then you're compressing its volume. So it's easy to transport it from point A to point B in a truck. And then we get it to a factory. We mix it in a blender with a resin, which is basically a glue that is able to compress the straw. And the percentage of, how this resin is mixed with the straw is the proprietary part of it, which is different for different straw. So if I today mix bagasse with the same resin, the percentage of mix will vary versus paddy to resin, which is the R&D element, which is where the technology comes in, which is something we keep doing simultaneously, figuring it out for different raw materials as we go forward. Now, after you have blend both of these together, you compress them like on a floor, like on a mat, basically, and you compress them in three layers. So there's a bottom core, middle core, top core, and each core is compressed at a different pressure and temperature to achieve different technical properties. You want the surface to be harder so that it can take more impact. You want the inner core to be soft so that it's more insulated. So in that sense, it's compressed, then it is sanded, and it turns into these sheets, which we call biopanels. We manufacture them in 10 feet into 6 feet sizes. So it's actually bigger than your standard ply that you buy from a retail store, which is 8 feet by 4 feet. And these sheets are then can be used for different purposes. You can then use it to make a table for studying. You can make a furniture. You can make your false ceiling, your doors, your partition, as well as you can use it as an exterior element. So even on your exterior facade, you can use this as a finish material that can take all the weather conditions. So whether it's sun or rain, it will be weatherproof in that sense. So that's what we do with this straw. And the value that we see in what we are doing is that what you're initially trying to do is you're creating value out of a waste.
Hmm.
Now, the more value you create, it's a better enabler. So, just to give an example, mostly in India, what we are doing with straw besides fodder is that it is converted into briquettes, which
Hmm.
is just compressing them and to use it as, burn it in factories for fuel. Now, if you let's say you're spending 2 rupees per kg to collect stubble from a farmer and you're compressing it into briquettes, right now in the country, you get paid 4.5 rupees per kg for that briquette. So the multiplier is 4.5 by 2, so it's hardly like
Hmm.
it's not, it's just doubling.
Right.
Now in our case, when you take that 2 rupees stubble, for 1 square feet of a panel you require 5 kg of straw, which is, so you're spending 10 rupees basically
Hmm.
to make a square feet of the panel, but you're selling it for 70 rupees, which is 7 times the multiplier at the back end. But to your end customer, you are offering a material that is 30% cheaper. So for my
Hmm.
customer, they are getting an affordable material. And for the value add at the back, there's a 7 times multiplier. So when we scale with this model, we are in a much better position to go back and tell to a farmer that even if today, 2 rupees is your actual expense, but if I give you 50 paisa, which is 25% margin on that, I can still be profitable. I'll be viable as an organization. We will not shut down. And you can also, get the value back from this whole, model that we have created. But if you expect that 50 paisa from a briquette manufacturer, that's a hard ask because they're
Hmm.
only selling it for 4.5. So the idea is that we keep converting this straw into value added products, and the better the multiplier in the value add, there's more alternative, there's more return income that we can go back and give to the farmers.
Hmm.
But if there's no multiplier, you can't keep doing that.
Right.
Then it becomes charity. It's not business.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hmm. So, Shruti, we know how important a circular business model
Hmm.
is. So, what are the recent big projects that Structure is engaging in terms of innovative business ideas revolving around housing, healthcare, and schooling?
Right. So yeah. So actually, those are actually our main segments that we do have.
Yeah.
So housing, as I earlier said, we are trying to create an ecosystem. So we're working with partners like Felco Foundation, which is one of the biggest clean energy provider in the country,
Hmm.
and they're also focusing on built environment because energy and house, like you can only put a solar panel on a house, so you first have to provide a house.
Right.
So that way we see a good synergy between our work. So we're working with Felco. We are working on a pilot level with certain MFIs out there in the country, certain banks, and trying to now do 20-25 houses from one,
Hmm.
and then see if that 25 can become 100, can become 150, and then reach out to organizations like Habitat for Humanity, who's doing it at a massive scale, and give them a model that is proven and that is replicable. So that's what we're doing right now, and we're also doing it in most difficult regions. So the idea is that if you can build something that can, deal with the floods in Muzaffarpur or deal with the cyclones in Puri, on Orissa, then it's a very easy sell in a plain region like Gujarat
Hmm.
or Delhi. So we are going for the harder, more challenging geographies. We are testing this model and building these homes, and then go and replicate it. When it comes to hospitals, so we are mostly working with private hospitals right now. So we have actually done 3 hospitals. We have done a COVID hospital and 2 private hospitals, and we see a lot of value with hospitals because there's been enough research done that says that if the space that you're healing in, if it's healthy, if it's non-toxic, if it's clean, it adds a lot of value, and it actually reduces the period or the time that a patient takes to heal. It's like,
Hmm.
if you get better, more clean oxygen, you would feel better. But if
Yes.
you're living in a room where there's a lot of toxic VOC emission, that will hamper your healing process. And since our product is a 100% non-toxic panel, we have seen a lot of support from architects and designers who build hospitals.
Hmm.
And going forward, we are looking to scale that up in North India. And right now, we are doing um, 2 hospitals, one in Gurgaon and another in Gujarat. We are doing, which again will act as a model for other. And these are projects not with a single chain, but it is with a developer. So someone whose
Okay.
only job is to go around build hospitals.
Hmm.
So once they utilize the material, it'll be easier to go to individual hospitals and doctors. And lastly, you mentioned schools, right?
Schooling.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So schools are my personal favorite actually, because we started off with a school. The first project that we did was building a school in Gorakhpur, which was an 11,000 square feet school
Hmm.
on a 100-year-old building on the fourth floor. And right now, we are from doing that for a government school at a low cost. We are right now doing an international school in Gurgaon. So the value that I see is that it's been accepted by the complete pyramid. So it's also been accepted by a government school and also by a high-end school. And they both see the value in using this material. And
Right.
so the best thing is that with schools, the applications are multiple. So almost every possible application can be used in a school. You can make so many furnitures out of it, partitions, doors, ceilings. And lastly, what we feel is that it's a great way for the school or the school administration to teach the kids, what really sustainability is. So
Hmm.
often when kids are being taught, it's you read something in a book, you're reading about climate change, you're reading about sustainability, but how if the built environment that they're sitting and being taught is made of a material that can become a very tangible way of explaining them sustainability? So that's what we pitched to this international school, and the administration and the architects were completely on board. And we are hoping that, this concept works with other schools as well, where they want the students to actually feel and, experience what it really means when you're
Right.
talking about sustainability. So definitely we're very excited about all the three segments.
Hmm.
Schools, so we're doing two schools right now, of course, because of COVID. Um, I mean, the students are not going to school anytime soon. But there are a lot of people who are right now investing the time in building it so that when the next session opens, the students can come back. So we still have a decent amount of work in all the three segments, touchwood, even because, despite of COVID. But we're definitely hoping to now go and scale up each segment, as I said, in terms of our offerings, our quality, service, and also the channel partners who go and build it, which
Right.
is very important in this.